Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great day today. Now, as you might know, Marvel and DC have been competing against each other for a very long period of time, pretty much over the course of the last 80 plus years. And naturally, since they're both all about superheroes and that kind of stuff, they have some very similar characters or teams, and in some cases it's a little bit too similar and it's a little bit suspicious. Of course, you might say they're just taking inspiration from each other, but in some cases I think it's a little bit too far.
Oh, that's not good.
I've made a couple videos a while back talking about when Marvel and DC have copied each other, and I'm back at it again with another one. So let's first hop into some times that Marvel has copied DC. So first of all, I would say Peter Porker, aka Spider-Ham, was copied off of Batmite. Spider-Ham came out in 1983, and Batmite came out in 1959. Now, if you think about it, both of these characters are both very similar because they wear the costume of the superhero they're based off of. Both these like little creatures that are kind of Looney Tunes like, and they're from alternate dimensions. Of course, there was also Mr. Mxyzptlk or whatever his name was from Superman that came out in 1944, and he doesn't actually like wear a Superman type of costume, but he is one of those like little characters. And so DC's the one that just kind of started doing that stuff before Marvel did it. Now, of course, I would also say that the Watchers in Marvel, who made their debut in 1963, are a little bit too similar to the Guardians of the Universe in DC that made their debut in 1960. Many would also say Iron Man is copied off of Batman, since both of them don't have powers, although they are really smart and use their riches to have some very good technology. Also, if you didn't know, Fantastic Four copied the Challengers of the Unknown, which was a DC group, although both of those groups of characters were created or co-created by Jack Kirby. And keeping on the topic of groups of characters, many people were saying that the new Thunderbolts movie that Marvel's putting out feels kind of like Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad. And in a way, I can definitely see the resemblance, although I would say the Suicide Squad is more so villains, whereas Thunderbolts are more so anti-heroes. But obviously, in both cases, they're still the protagonists. Of course, you have Wizard that was copied from The Flash. Ultron came out 10 years after Brainiac, and they're very similar characters in many ways if you think about it. And it's not a stretch to say that Sandman, the Spider-Man villain, was copied from Clayface. Not to mention that DC also had a character named Sandman, although that was a completely different thing. Now, I love the iconic character Wolverine, but he made his debut in 1974. A lot of people have noticed he resembles the DC character Timberwolf a little bit too much, and he made his debut 10 years earlier in 1964. I must also say I feel like Hulk was kind of inspired by Solomon Grundy. Now, obviously, as characters in general, they're very different, but just their design is pretty similar, especially Hulk's original design, which was actually not green, it was gray. Let's move on to some times that DC copied Marvel. Blockbuster was a ripoff of Hulk.
This needs to stop now!
Many people would say Killer Croc is copied off of the Lizard since they came out 20 years apart. Ice definitely took way too much inspiration from Iceman. Livewire was a copy from Electro, and Booster Gold copied Vindicator. But it's not just characters in comics. When it comes to movies in general, although DC was the one that kind of kicked off the superhero blockbusters with the Superman movies and the Batman movies, they didn't really have a connected cinematic universe until after Marvel started doing it. And the DCEU actually kind of tried to catch up to the MCU way too fast, where the MCU started in 2008 and they had their Avengers movie in 2012, and the DCEU started with Man of Steel in 2013. Then they jumped to a Batman v Superman movie, which also coincidentally came out in 2016, the same year that Captain America Civil War came out. And then the DCEU rushed for the Justice League movie to come out so that they would have a team-up movie similar to Marvel, and then it failing and all that kind of stuff is a long story. Although it was nice that we got the Snyder Cut. That was actually an incredible movie. But regardless, there was obviously all that copying and stuff going down. And to end this video, I wanted to make some mentions of characters in Marvel and DC that have the exact same names, but they really aren't copies of each other. So first of all, the Marvel character Black Widow, her first appearance was in 1964. But if you didn't know, in the Batman TV series that ran from 1966 to 68, one of the guest villains was actually named Black Widow, although that was an old lady. And as I said, she was a villain, so it was a completely different character. Also, the Marvel character Doctor Strange first appeared in the 1960s, but there's also a DC character named Doctor Strange, Dr. Hugo Strange, who came out in the 40s. And then of course you have the character Shazam, aka Captain Marvel. and Marvel has the Captain Marvel character. And the weird thing about all that is Marvel's the one that still uses theirs, and when it comes to the new Shazam movies, they never actually address him as Captain Marvel, which is weird because they're the ones that originally came up with this. So you would think they would be the ones that would still be using it, and Marvel would be the one embarrassed to use it. But regardless, that's just the way it is. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about all this. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.